Hello world of YouTube and welcome to another episode of ARC, the show where I get to be an asshole reviewing comics, and I figured I'd start a new crop of episodes. I want to have another run of this show because I really like reading comics. I don't like talking about comic books with you guys, and I figured this would be a nice way to bring it in with a small little 4-issue story from a source that I tap from a lot, Marvel Comics. And don't get me wrong guys, I have some non-Marvel episodes on the burner to pull together. I've just got to sit down and read them and gather some thoughts on them. But today we're going to be looking at a 4-issue story that debuted at the turn of the millennium, and its art style definitely shows that. I'm talking about the 4-issue collaboration, because you know me, I like weird team-ups, of Iron Fist and Wolverine in the story of the return of Kunlun. And this story, written-wise, was compiled together with Jay Farber and Jamal Igle, with primary art coming from Rich Perrotta. It's a story that has a handful of companion comics also listed with it that kind of set up the story a little more. I mean, hell, the beginning of this story, the first page, sees Iron Fist being stripped of his powers, something that I'm assuming happens from the last big Iron Fist story. Something that feels like it's sort of calling back to throughout a lot of the dialogue, especially in the setup of the story, talking about how I gave up my powers and I also wanted the Kunlun to come back. Something that, again, just feels like is a reaction. This whole story feels like a reaction to events that have already happened in the past. His powers are being taken from this guy, from this boy, who's being sort of looked over by this guy, this old guy. And again, it sets up a lot going on, and while reading it, there's a lot of companion pieces that the story kind of gives you context for where to go if you want to know more about it. I read a lot of comics that do that, but I feel like this story had a lot going on in it that had prior context elsewhere. So I'll include all the companion reading and everything else that's also lumped in with the trade-back version that's sold out there that I don't have. I just wanted to cover the primary 4 issues of this story, because this has a complete resolution. Everything else I feel like is just more fleshing out of the aspects of the story IMO. The story itself, like I said, starts with Iron Fist losing his powers, and then immediately cuts to him in Central Park with his girlfriend Misty and Luke Cage. Danny and them just chilling out, walking through Central Park when he sees a shrine from Kunlun, which is the place where Iron Fist sort of came to be, as it were. If you didn't know what Kunlun was. And in a previous story arc, Iron Fist did some shit to try to bring Kunlun into the real world, because it's in its own dimension now, so that he could be with his family once again. And he's visited by his mom, says, hey, we love you, but that might have been a bad move, because the guy that stole your powers, well, he's trying to finish the job, and he's going to try and bring it to Tokyo to finish the job, because basically the minute Danny sets foot in Tokyo, that's where Kunlun is going to return to, and that basically becomes the central part of the plot. I mean, they capture Misty and use her as like bait for Danny to come to Tokyo, and he takes the bait. But as you guys know, if you're an avid comic book fan, if anything has to do with Tokyo, especially in the 90s, they're going to bring Wolverine into it. So while Danny is in Tokyo, or like the outskirts of Tokyo in the sewers, Wolverine shows up. He has somebody there who said, hey, the Hand, the infamous Marvel Ninja Clan, the Hand, are causing a ruckus. And they involve Iron Fist. So he's there to help Danny sort of sort through everything that's going on. And initially, it's just the two of them, you know. They show up, they kick some hand ass, and then, lo and behold, everybody's looking to help Danny Rand, apparently, this time around. Because the next person to step up to help him is Kingpin. You got fucking Kingpin siding with Wolverine and Iron Fist. It's weird. But this story quickly evolves past just a Wolverine-Iron Fist team-up, because the minute that Kunlun actually starts to come back to Tokyo, because Danny does set foot on Tokyo proper, and this wall pops up and starts to merge the two worlds together, immediately everyone else gets involved. You know, Tony Stark gets a hold of things. All the Avengers, you know, the Fantastic Four decide to get thrown into reference here. The Avengers, everybody. You know, it still focuses on Iron Fist and Wolverine's plight. They still are a big focus of the story, but even Captain America comes in. He gets some screen time. You got Japanese hero Sunfire coming in the fray. You've got a lot of people coming in on here. And one of the things I like about the story is while all these cooks seemingly come into the kitchen, and I'll talk about this later, but the players at hand that are integral to the story are still the focal point. You still spend a lot of time with Danny. You know, Wolverine's plight is still very much there, his drive to help Danny. And even the players that come into fray, like Psylocke and even Luke Cage, that feel integral to Japan or the story, still feel like part of the presence more so than some of the other cooks that come into the plot. You know, they'll still cut to Iron Man and Cap, but the focal point is still made pretty clear. And I like that about that, because it could easily have been lost with everyone else coming in. And while this is going on the outside, Danny does get captured. You know, he fights a dragon, because why the fuck not? And he gets captured, and he gets to be face-to-face with the kid that stole his powers again, and he realizes just how bad shit is when he starts stealing some more powers, giving Danny a taste of his own medicine too, hitting him with the Iron Fist ability. But he also runs into his uncle in jail, the guy that's sort of part of the reason why he really became who he was in a negative way. He was kind of responsible for his parents' death. He comes in, he sort of sees his power being used for bad, and it becomes at that point a point for him to escape at that point. You know, there's also a point where, at the end of one of the issues, Sunfire and the Japanese Yakaiba go against the heroes because they want to figure it out themselves. So there's just a lot of inner turmoil going on. Eventually Wolverine sort of makes his way in after they dig under, and, you know, after fighting more dragons and combing through more sewers, they all eventually come together again. And while Danny is hesitant to rescue his uncle along with everybody else, he gets a vision from his mother, tells him that family is sort of an important part of this whole spiel. And there's just a lot of fighting going on, lot of fighting going on throughout the rest of the comic, which is nice. I like the action in it, and I like, while I think that some of the art has dated a bit, some of the colors pop in a way that's a little old school. It's got a charm to it if you like 2000s comics, and it's kind of in that transition between 90s and 2000s comic style, where it's still got some vibrancy, but in a very 90s way, while trying to have some harder lines, like I feel like they were trying to shift towards to the 2000s. I think it's written really well, and I feel like the tension really ramps up. Kunlun continues to merge with Tokyo, and things really start to ramp up. It's got a good resolution, because one of the big components that they keep harping on is that Iron Fist needs to be the city is tied to his heartbeat. You know, not only this new guy's heartbeat, but Danny's heartbeat. The power of Iron Fist still ebbs and flows, and his power to bring Kunlun back is integrally tied to his life force, as it will. And while fighting, he realizes this, and he just takes an L. He gets the smackdown laid on him, and he dies. Danny Rand dies. But it's all for naught. His old family gives him a shot at life. His mother comes back and is like, hey, we're going to bend the rules a bit. We're gonna give you some life again, and we're going to leave a little part of Kunlun here in Tokyo now. But now you and your new family have got to watch over it. So Misty and Luke Cage, they're all hanging out with little Kunlun, with the dragons, keeping it safe. And yeah, it's a nice story involving family, life, and sort of learning to sometimes leave the past in the past. I like this story. I thought it was a nice little read that, again, had a lot of good action. There's a lot of fights. You know, the fight in Central Park in the beginning of it. You know, all the fights with the Hand and Wolverine and Iron Fist are really cool. You know, that happen throughout the story. I think it's got some charm to it. And again, I don't mind Wolverine and Tokyo stories, even though this one has less to do with his story. I like how Wolverine gives Psylocke a chance to really shine in the area, because she has an issue with the Hand. They are responsible for her being the way that she is in a negative way, and she makes sense to be there, so I like that they included her in the story in her own way. You know, all the players at hand just sort of make sense as companions to Iron Fist and Wolverine and Tokyo as a whole, because Luke Cage comes back and he helps throttle the action in a positive way. I don't know, man. I think that it's a nice little read. You know, I like Iron Fist. I don't hate Wolverine, and I like the integration of them together here. It actually makes a lot of sense, and I like how it comes together. Again, the art may be a turn-off for some people if you don't like the art style that was sort of burgeoning out of the late 90s, early 2000s. You may not dig it, but I like it. I think that some of the colors pop in a way that they may not need to, but I get it, and I think it's not too much of a detractor. And this is definitely a very solid-ass read that has some cool visuals, some cool fights. And again, I think the story is also just kind of cute and works for the characters at hand. But yeah, that's it. So I want to talk about Iron Fist and Wolverine. Do you like these characters? Do you have any interest in this story? Let me know in those comments down below. If you did like this particular arc, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more of my music, gaming, and general nerd content, be sure to subscribe. Special thanks to my patrons if you want to join their ranks to get early access to content, exclusive content, or to help drive the community. It's linked in the description. But I'm going to get out of here, though. I have been Valrack. You guys are good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day.